The Thunderbolts is the movie that the two Suicide Squads that we got should have been, but wasn't. What do I mean by that? Well, in the first case, I'm going to be honest, I don't remember those Suicide Squad movies that well. There's a reason for that. I wasn't the biggest fan of them. What I liked about this movie was that the characters, even though they were B, C, D list characters, and they were characters that we'd seen before, they all had great chemistry together. There was a good balance between humor and action and drama, and nothing really felt forced. Up to a certain point. Now, up to that certain point, I was all in with this movie. Before I get to what I didn't like about it, let's talk about what I did like about it. One of the issues that has been a complaint for the MCU for quite a while is the humor that seemed to just plague these movies. But here, there is humor, but it's really well done. And it does seem to fit because these characters are just a bunch of misfits that, like I say, are C-level characters at best. I mean, yeah, we've seen Yelena before, we've seen Red Guardian before in the Black Widow movie. U.S. Agent, we saw him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Of all the characters, probably the one with the most notoriety is Bucky Barnes from the Winter Soldier and all of the Avengers films. But these are second-tier characters. They're not characters that we would expect to lead a film. They're characters that we would see fighting alongside other characters in an ensemble team. And the characters, for the most part, know this. They know that they are not the first line of defense. There's a scene early on in the film where all the characters are together and Yelena says, okay, so none of us know how to fly? We just pretty much punch and shoot, is that it? And yeah, that's it. And even Bucky, who I just mentioned is one of the more known and famous characters in this movie, even he acknowledges his second-rate status, namely because, as we saw in Captain America Brave New World, he was either in that movie, he was either running for Congress or he was already in Congress. But at the time of this film, he's already out of Congress. Now, they don't let us know if he retired or if he was ousted. There's an impeachment process going on at the beginning of this film, and I'll get into that later. It's not Bucky that's being impeached, but he's not even allowed to sit on the committee for that impeachment hearing. So he understands, yeah, okay, I kind of screwed that up, and I am where I am. I'm going to stay in my lane. There's a funny scene where Bucky is outside of the halls of the impeachment hearing, and the reporters flank him to try to get questions, and he just stumbles through the most nonsensical response and gives pretty much no information. Even the reporters look at him like, who is this guy? And if you go back to Captain America Brave New World, the one scene where Bucky has a cameo with Sam Wilson, he delivers this great speech, and then Sam says, did you guys write that for you? And he's like, yeah, they did write it for me. It sounded pretty good, didn't it? I love the fact that Bucky knows that he's second rate. I mean, he's a fighter, but he's not that dude to lead, which is why one would think that he was okay with Sam taking the shield from Steve Rogers. Wyatt Russell comes back as U.S. Agent from playing that role in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He's the least aware of how low status he is. He still doesn't have any contrition or any regret for murdering a man on live TV in that miniseries. He still believes that he is the Captain America, or at least he was the Captain America at some point. And he's also the butt of a lot of jokes and insults because of his arrogance.
Pretty ludicrous coming from the dime store Captain America.
I'll have you know I was actually the official Captain America, so.
Yeah, for like 2 seconds.
But I tell you what, that lack of knowledge and the fact that he does show up when he needs to, that makes him the most interesting character to watch. Well, one of the most interesting characters to watch on screen. Definitely one of the most fun characters to watch on screen. At one point, he's labeled an asshole, and that ticks him off, but then the other members of his team kind of indicate to him that, yeah, you kind of are an asshole. But to me, he kind of redeemed himself from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even though he still has no compunction about murdering that guy in the series. But I don't know, watching him in this film, I did grow to like him. I thought he really was a standout character. I want to say arguably the star of this film, or the leader of the group, would be Yelena, played by Florence Pugh. She has some great scenes. In particular, the villain in this movie has the ability to make a person experience trauma that they've lived in their lives just from physical contact. We get some more backstory about Yelena in her training in the Red Room, and there's a scene that takes place in a forest that is really horrifying. And when the movie opens, it is suggested that she's about to commit suicide. And I'm not going to say what happens, but it is just so great how they weave that scene, the opening scene, into the next scene. It's just really well done. But Yelena, Florence Pugh's character, has some great moments. There's one scene that is a genuinely heartwarming, heart-tugging, tear-jerker scene. And it does kind of stop the movie, but I mean, Florence Pugh gets to show what she can do. It really is a scene that makes her not only a sympathetic character, but a human character as well. David Barber is back as the Red Guardian. We last saw him, I believe, in the Black Widow movie. And he's the source of most of the jokes. I didn't really like his character that much in the Black Widow. Well, I didn't really like that film all that much. But here he works for the same reasons I said earlier. This is a team of misfits. They realize that they're low tier. So his attitude, where he's basically an overgrown kid, he's just so happy to be on a team. He's just so happy not to be sitting at home spilling potato chips on his chest, sitting in his underwear watching TV, and he gets to get out and have some action, some fun. And his attitude is kind of infectious. All I can say is he really works in this film, unlike Black Widow, because the environment or the aesthetic of this movie seemed to fit him a lot better. The ever great Julia Louis-Dreyfus is back as Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. And you better make sure you get that last name right, de Fontaine, or she will correct you at the drop of a hat. She's back. She is hilarious. She's funny. Not in a comical way, even though she plays her character. She plays her character snarky. She's got a quip. She will cut you down.
Who is this old Santa?
The Red Guardian.
What?
If you're a fan of hers, which I am from Seinfeld, but particularly a show that she did on HBO for, I think, 5 seasons called Veep, where she plays the Vice President of the United States. That's the character that I feel she draws on when she plays this character, because this character, just like her character Selena Meyer in the show Veep, this character, De Fontaine, is working and moving in that political world. She is the character that's being impeached at the beginning of the film for doing some covert weapons types of things. I won't say anything more than that. But her character really brings that snarky humor. I mean, this is an Emmy winner. She won an Emmy for the role that she played in Veep, Selena Meyer, like I mentioned before. And she brings that to this film, but with even more evil confidence, and it's just great. So, the first 2 acts of this film, I was all in. I was prepared to put this on my list of MCU films. There's only maybe 6 films on that list that I think are genuinely good movies. And I was ready to put this on that list until the end of the second act. That's where it started to crumble for me. So what happens? I'm not going to spoil anything, but they introduce the main villain. You've seen pieces of this person in the trailer. You see a shadowy figure holding out his hand, and people start splatting into black charcoal on the street. And that was like, oh man, what is this? Okay, this looks interesting. Okay, now let me just say off the top here. This character that I'm not going to spoil is a character that appears in the books, and I don't know this character's power set. It seems like this character has an Omega level power set. It was almost like when I went to see, I couldn't wait to see Star Wars Phantom Menace back in 1999, because we saw images of Darth Maul, and I'm like, oh man, he looks badass. I felt the same way. I couldn't wait to see what this villain was all about. But then when this person appears on screen, it was a total letdown. First of all, the actor that they hired to play this role, this person may be very good. I don't think I've seen them in anything else. but the physicality of this actor was just not there. The look of this actor was just not there. The attitude, the way the actor played the character, just for me, was not believable at all. I can't imagine that this is how the character behaves in the books, because it was just a letdown. It was just, I didn't believe it at all. This guy, to me, particularly in terms of the actor and how the actor portrayed the character, was just one step above the leader in Captain America Brave New World. And I mean in terms of lameness. This was an interesting character that was reduced to me to not being interesting because of mainly this person just shows up. Powers just manifest out of nowhere. I don't know if I'm doing it justice, but it was one of those things where because the script says it, we just have to accept it. We don't get to see anything about this character to make this character kind of sympathetic, or for us to, I like to use this term, invest in this character. It's just, okay, here he is, he has powers. We told you where the powers came from, now just accept it. If you remember the Avengers Age of Ultron, when Vision first appears on screen, maybe I overthink things, but I'm like, okay, he has a costume already. Okay, he grew a cape organically. Why? That's how I felt when this character came on screen full costume. And again, that's because there was no setup. It just happens because the screenplay says it has to happen. Now, like I said, the character's power set is off the charts. And what we see this person do, it's like, there's no way anybody's gonna beat this guy. Our Thunderbolts don't really take a lot of time fighting this character. They take more time saving people that the character puts in danger. And I'm not gonna say what the climax is, but we got a really powerful villain, and we have the Thunderbolts. The resolution is not very satisfying at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's really a cop-out. And again, but for the fact that this villain and the last half of this movie was a supreme letdown, I was prepared to give this film 4 reels. But because of that last act and that villain, I got to drop it down to 3.5 reels. Now, 4 reels is great. So 3.5 is between good and great, meaning that it's still worth paying the money to go see in theaters. I totally would recommend you go see it. Just don't get your hopes up that you're gonna love that ending, because it is kind of anticlimactic is the term I'll use. There is one mid-credit scene. It's kind of funny. It doesn't really add up to anything. But then there's a scene at the very end, a post-credit scene, that is probably one of the better teasers we've had in quite some time. It reminded me of when we first saw Thanos appear on screen. I think that was in the first Avengers. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't remember, but it teases something that's coming pretty soon. And it also creates a lot of questions, but I'm not gonna get into that. You gotta go see it for yourself. All right, guys, that is the Martini. Subscribe, click and subscribe. Leave your comments below. Hit the like button. Please share this video. Let me know what you think, and I will see you again very soon. Take care.